We spent the first decade building the foundation and plugging holes in our budget, but part 2, this is where the roadmap really hits the gas.
We're going from 1 kid to 4, navigating 2 retirements, and taking a 7,000-mile test drive of our new life.
The numbers get bigger, the stakes get higher, and today we're showing you exactly how we reached the finish line.
Then came 2017. Michaela was born, and it changed everything. It changed everything in our life, but it also changed our budget. And that went up to $37,000. And we finally understood, though, what the true meaning of love that people always talk about. We really understood that. Like, when you have your own child, it is a love that no one can, you can't really explain it.
Michaela definitely changed our life, and she was the beginning of, what would be 4 kids that we'll talk about through this journey. So on a more financial note, we opened a brokerage account for the first time that year, and we started buying individual stocks. So that was an adventure in itself. That then grew up to about 10% of our total allocation for our portfolio. The other money was locked into a 401k that we couldn't really do that much with. We certainly couldn't invest in individual stocks, and we could just pick either index funds or mutual funds. So that's where most of our money was.
Yep. And then also in 2018, so that next year, we did sell the house that we moved into after the lake house. We sold that for a $30,000 profit and moved to another house that was a little bit bigger, and we thought we could grow into it as we grew our family, because at that point we were pregnant again with our second child, who was Finnegan. So we thought that moving into a house that would fit us and grow with us would be our best next move. So in 2019, we sold that house for a $40,000 profit and made that big move to Charleston, and it was a big move. I mean, we packed a 26-foot U-Haul and
that I drove.
It was in the morning. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, it was early in the morning.
Early in the morning.
I just remember it being dark. I can't remember if it was.
You got the kids up early in the morning. And at that point, though, too, I wanted to mention we only had 1 car. So we had our 2004 4Runner. And so that was something that we did strategically, too, when we decided for me to stay at home and I wasn't working. We had a Prius, and we sold that Prius so that we didn't have 2 cars. We didn't need 2 cars at that point. So I think that's also something, like, if you have, if you're a husband and wife and you don't need 2 cars, then why have 2 cars sitting in your driveway and paying insurance on both of them when you could just move down to 1 car?
Okay, then we fast forward to 2020, and just saying that should make something inside of you. You should just cringe when you hear that year, because that was the pandemic. And so we just had moved to South Carolina, to Charleston from North Carolina, which was a huge move for us. And then a few months after that, we were in the pandemic, and that just kind of brought everything. We were making progress, trying to make friends and get settled into the area. And then that pandemic hit, and it just kind of brought everything to a screeching halt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we ended up getting pregnant at that point too.
Yep.
And then beyond that in 2020, so it's like a whirlwind for the world, but it's also, I think, a whirlwind for our family.
Yeah.
And I think we also signed a contract on a house at that point.
Yeah, we did.
And that then did come to a halt too. So it was a long, drawn out process. And then we also, we told you we sold the Prius, and then we came down to Charleston with just 1 car. So at that point, we were driving a 2004 4Runner. But then we bought kind of like the official family car. We bought the Honda Odyssey, because we were moving to 3 kids now instead of 2. So they wouldn't all fit in the 4Runner. So we needed that extra space. And that's when kind of our budget did increase a little bit, because then we added a car payment at that point in another insurance.
So then if you go a little bit further, 2021 was the year that I retired from my job at my corporate job at age 38. And this is when our net worth hit 1.2 million. And we moved into the Charleston house, the one that we had signed a contract for. Mm-hmm. I think it was 5 months delayed because of COVID. Mm-hmm. Things were just crazy down here. But yeah, then life happened.
Life happened again. So we sold that house. And I know it all sounds crazy, but at that point, I think we were also missing family. And we, again, like with COVID, we didn't get a chance to even like really truly dig deep into friendships. And we just felt kind of like we were missing out on family and key relationships back in North Carolina. So we did sell the house, and we also saw the house jumped in equity.
It just went up like crazy in value. Eventually, it was what we made 300,000.
300,000. I think we were also like we went back for Christmas, and we felt like there was just we came back and we were like, oh, there's just something missing. So it wasn't just and that profit was great. I mean,
Yeah, that was a
that was like a icing on top of the cake, and it was a huge milestone for us. And then at that point, we moved back to North Carolina, and we lived with my parents for 8 months when we figured out our next move. So that was also a really grateful thing that I think allowed us to make a decision. We didn't have to figure out a place to live. We had a place to live with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So it allowed us to kind of a stepping stone to make the next decision.
And then shortly after that, we found out that Amber was pregnant with
Our fourth.
with Sullivan, our fourth. Then with Sullivan being on the way, we decided it probably would be good if I got a job again, went back to work. And I also would need that if we were going to buy a house. And so that's what I did. I went back to, I worked with Lowe's in the past as more of a contractor status. And then I decided to go work there directly at Lowe's corporate. They have an office down in Charlotte that I wanted to work at. So anyway, we did that. And then we bought a house, moved into that in Mooresville in the Lake Norman area. And I don't know, it's kind of another one of those stories where you think that house was it was like a spec build,
Mhm.
and that neighborhood is being developed. And when everybody started moving in, it just felt kind of like the same thing, like just tons of people so
Okay,
close
Truman
together.
Show. At that job too, I wanted to mention that was like your highest paying job out of the 20 years.
Oh yeah, by far. And I think a lot of that was from appreciation. Like
Right.
I could feel that increase from my previous job to this one. Like there was a huge bump up in pay. And I guess that was just because I was either underpaid before or because of inflation, probably both.
Both. I think both. Okay, so if you're still following along, I know it all sounds like, well, which way are they going to go, or which way did they go? So we did sell that house. We also wanted to lower our cost of living again because we saw with that income, we kind of then did raise our budget with that. We kind of
with buying
felt
that
the
house.
lifestyle creep.
We also had the interest rates were up quite a bit from what the
Right.
previous mortgage that we had.
And I think then we also started realizing that we could potentially put our skills to work in building a barn dominium. And if you guys don't know anything about that, short answer is that it's a metal structure that it has no load bearing walls. So you can really make it your own, and you don't have to have all of the components that a normal stick built house has.
And so this is also where our income streams expanded. We wanted to get out of just being in that single income and try to build that out, broaden that out, so we had a little more security and stability, flexibility, all of that. So we started an e-commerce business that we still have today. And surprisingly, we also started investing in Lego sets. And this is something that we want to do a future video on to go into more detail. But it really is a legitimate asset class, and it's something that helps us to diversify beyond the stock market. And there is still, there's a lot of volatility in the stock market, a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of news-driven events and things like that. And we learned that the Lego sets, they're sealed, new in the box. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about, these big collector's sets and things like that. The average return on investment is about 14%. And the cool thing about that is like that happens in bear markets and
Right.
stock market volatility. You have a strategy on how you buy them, and that's what we've developed. Is we know like which themes to look at, which sets, and we can do a better job of projecting the resale value of certain sets that we can.
So it's not just like any Lego set. It's
Right.
very specific and thought through. It's exactly what he does for the stock market.
Yep.
It's a very strategic plan.
And you have to have patience. There's a retirement process. So I didn't realize this before we started investing, but Lego does purposefully retire sets and then they stop making them, and that makes the value go up. There's even like a retirement pop, as they call it.
Mhm. So by 2024, so we're kind of going through all of this time, we were back in Charleston. So that we went back and lived with my parents. We thought that we were going to build the barn dominium, and it ended up actually costing more than we thought it was going to cost. And there was just, it just seemed, I don't know, it just seemed like it wasn't a good fit. And then also, I think we knew what Charleston offered. Going back to the beginning of this video, we mentioned that we really wanted our kids to grow up in Charleston. I think we still had that a part of us. That was just still a thought process.
Yeah. I agree.
And we wanted our kids to have and there's just like a history here, and there's just, you know, you have the marsh and you have all these outdoor activities, and the parks here are amazing.
Okay, then 2025 is the year of the final pivot. So I retired from the Lowe's corporate office for good. Probably not going back there. I had more of it started off as a job that I could go to, that I'd have to be in the office like a week every quarter, was what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of steadily crept into like more and more days. So I think then it became like 1 day was mandatory, or 2 days was sort of expected. And then it became 2 days was required. And then people would get laid off that were remote. And for a period of, 9 months, I was actually driving back and forth, commuting from Charleston to Charlotte to go to work.
Yeah.
And that was to go to work for at least 2 days. And then I just felt like I reached a point that we had enough saved. We had met the requirement for our fire number. And so I just decided to pull the plug and retire. But my income for that year, though, was, so I had a combination of the Lowe's income for a couple months before I retired. And then we also had a lot of capital gains that we had accrued just from our stock investments. So we had about $300,000 in gains, believe it or not. And then we had about $200,000 that we actually cashed out, or that we sold as capital gains for that year. And we just felt like I'm not sure if that was the right move or not, but with me retiring, it just felt like a good move we had a lot of stocks. It was probably 5 or 10 great investments that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just decided they were up so much that it probably would be a good time to take profits and then kind of reset, especially just with that big change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did to celebrate and to test our lifestyle. We took the kids. Oh yeah, this was a big moment. Like, I think for us, we just really wanted to celebrate that and make it feel real. You know, sometimes it's hard when you're saving this money and you have it in an account. It's hard to really know if is
it worth it?
That it's worth it, and that it's real. I don't know. Sometimes you just look at your account statements and you look at it online, and it's just like, okay, I have all this money, but so what? Like, I don't really feel that in my life. So I think this is something that we just wanted to do, and
we didn't want to just go buy something.
We wanted like an experience, and we wanted to have something that the kids would remember, that we'll remember for the rest of our lives, and something that we want to continue to do also, not just one time.
Right.
We also had like our dads have both had some pretty serious health issues in the last couple of years, and we just wanted to make sure that when that time comes for us, that we don't have any regrets, and that we did all the things that we want to do with our kids, and that they remember us and remember the times that we have together. And they think about more than just when daddy's working.
We want them to know us more than that. And I think that's also why fire is so important to us. We'll kind of get into that more throughout, and you'll see that throughout all these videos, is that like fire is important to us because it gives us our time, and it gives us our time with our kids, and then we can make our own time, whether we are still working or not. Like, we are owning our time at that point.
Yeah.
So that trip from Charleston to California, then all the way back, for 30 days, it was the ultimate stress test. I think it did test our family. It tested our finances. But I think overall, that is the trip that everybody always talks about. Like, we visited national parks. We stayed in glamping resorts, which were really cool, in Zion and Yosemite. And then we had our own tent experience in Lake Tahoe. We were able to experience the redwoods and to see all the magnificent, like the beauty that our country has to offer.
Yeah.
Like,
Now in 2026, we have 5 income streams, which is awesome.
Mhm.
We also converted 500 square feet of our current house into a furnished monthly rental that brings in $2,500 a month. And this is great to help reduce our monthly mortgage payment and bring our spending into alignment with our fire number and ensure that we can last the long haul, with that amount saved and with our cost of living.
And it takes pressure off of our investment.
That's true. That's true.
Our next big quest, though, is to start a micro school or some kind of homeschool co-op where we're bringing in Charleston's history and nature. We're kind of like coinciding both of them to educate our kids and others in the community. It's always been a passion of ours, and I think we've found this drive and this interest through homeschooling our kids, and then being involved in the community, and then also just being a part of Charleston. We know that it is a big reason why we moved here, so we want to really focus on that. So it's definitely been a long road from that $42,000 that we talked about earlier, that $42,000 salary that Jerad started with in 2006 on his own, but every milestone taught us something in between.
So looking back on that roadmap, it's easy to see the numbers and think it was just a straight line up. But we reached 1.6 million not because we were lucky, but because we had a consistent strategy for 20 years. It's crazy that it took us 20 years, guys. I think you can do much better. I think after you learn from what we've done and other people like us, you can do this much faster, and you can have a better plan right off the bat instead of just kind of fumbling. I feel like we just kind of fumbled through this the first 5 to 6 years. And we made a lot of mistakes. We moved too many times for sure. And we almost fell for that luxury trap, especially in the middle, more times than I can admit. It's hard to have that much money saved up and to know that you have a goal, spending it on something is not part of that goal. That's a very difficult thing. And we've heard from a lot of viewers on this channel that they struggle with that too.
Yeah. So it's those pivots that define the journey. If you're watching this and feeling like you're behind, here are 3 tips we wish we knew in 2006. Number 1, track your leaks early. You don't need a perfect budget, but you do need to know if you're spending $1,000 at a craft store or on takeout without realizing it. 2, the gap is everything. It's not about your salary. It's about the space between what you make and what you spend. That's your freedom fund. And number 3, prototype your life. Don't wait until you're retired to live. We practice being together 24/7 during our 7,000-mile road trip. I know that you've talked to several people before and practice what it looks like to be in fire. You still make, if you make 120,000, but your fire number is less than that, then practice living off of your fire number.
And do that before you retire.
Right. Do that before you retire, so you feel like, can I do this, or do I need to continue on and build up my fire number more than what I think?
Yep. Or do you need a side hustle or some kind of business income to offset that?
Yeah.
They're both good strategies.
Right. So today, Jerad is one of the only dads at our homeschool co-op. We spend our mornings together. We build Legos with the kids. We go on adventures on a random Friday. We serve together. We're living the life we prototyped during this whole 20 years that we planned. And it definitely was worth every sacrifice in those early years, I think, looking back.
Yeah, I see that now. But it was hard to see at certain points, and you didn't know if you'd get there. And sometimes the future is uncertain when you don't have the steady income. But I think that's life. At least we have our freedom and these other incomes to help support us. If this roadmap helps you guys visualize your own path, do us a big favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. This tells the algorithm that transparency in finance really matters. It's important that we've actually done this. We have this net worth. We're sharing all this information with you. We're not just on YouTube talking about it like we suspect a lot of other channels are, unfortunately. And we want to hear from you. What is the one pivot that you're planning to make this year? Let us know in the comments below and share your journey with us.
Yeah. So also, if you want to see specific stocks that helped us actually finally get over the finish line and into full-time retirement, subscribe right now. We're opening up our brokerage account and showing you the exact tickers in a future video.
Your quest starts today. It's not about how much you make. It's about the gap between what you make and what you spend, and the pivots that you make along the way. So we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Sully's in here. Smile.